Cher here, and I'm going to confess to you, I did not want to do this. I mean, I really did not want to make a video about this, because if you guys have never seen my first video about the first Frozen movie, why on God's earth would I have any interest in its second movie? Well, it seems like that everyone has been talking about it, regardless whether they're saying they're excited for it or why on God's earth is Disney doing this? Oh, of course it's for cash cow funds. But I thought, will my opinions be any different? I don't know. Honestly, if they're not different, I don't care. So just now, I had just finished watching the trailer, and I only watched this trailer once, and really, I don't think there is any other reason to watch this trailer more than once, because I think I pretty much got the gist of what on earth this movie is going to be about at this point, since it's the first official trailer that Disney released of Frozen 2. So I'm just gonna jump into my first impressions to what this movie is going to be like, because it's going to be released in theaters a month and a half from now, a month and a half from now. So, yeah, let's get on to it. I have a couple of notes that I wrote in my handy-dandy notebook right here. So, this is going to help me remember, like, what I observed in this movie, things that I thought were okay, things that I thought were good, possibly good, or things where like, really, Disney? Really? Because on the route that we're going, I think it's gonna be more on the really Disney, really route. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, the script based on the lines or scenes that they put into the trailer for this movie so far. The script, I think, is very interesting because, kind of like the first movie, I think Disney is conflicted on what type of tone that they wanted to set for the sequel to the original movie. Because the first movie was like a mixture of, oh, this is gonna be fun and magical, mixed in with, oh, it's gonna get really dark because the climax is gonna hit, and sometimes that darkness really didn't match the rest of the movie as it should. And, with this movie, I think Disney was decided that they were gonna go a more very serious route with Frozen 2, but at the same time, their lines are kinda like not mature for the type of setting that they're developing here. It's still like, oh, this movie's going to be for the same kids that grew up with the first movie that came out 6 years ago almost. And I would not be against that if the first movie had a similar tone to what the second movie is going to be. Because I said in my first video, that I'll put in the description box below if you haven't seen it, I would have preferred if the first movie was a little bit more serious, like if Disney took more risks with it, because I remember when they were making the movie in the first place, they had so many good ideas to adapt the first movie as a retelling of The Snow Queen by Hans Christian Andersen. I wanted to see that, and I think for the second movie they're trying to put that more into its sequel, to which I beg the question, how come they didn't do it in the first movie? Why did they have to make a sequel for this? But again, I'm not a producer, I'm not Disney, I don't know what their thought process is, and at this point I could care less. So the voice acting is the second thing I wanted to talk about, and its voice acting is, I think for the most part, like if we're gonna talk about the original characters like Elsa, Anna, and Kristoff, they're still the same. Like, they're played by the same actors. They sound like what Elsa, Anna, and Kristoff are supposed to sound like. Except for some reason, Kristoff does sound like a lot older. Maybe that's because the original voice actor was like in his like, I don't know, mid-20s or something when he played Kristoff originally. So of course he's gonna sound older. Duh. Like, I looked this up before I would talk about this. Josh Gad still plays Olaf in this movie. Like, I could not find any other source where they added a new voice actor or something like that. Olaf still is Josh Gad, but for some reason Olaf doesn't have that that childlike voice that he had from the first movie.
The whole putting us in mortal danger gonna be a regular thing?
Maybe it's because I only watched that one clip that Olaf actually, like, talks, like, or has, like, a full set of dialogue in a scene. But he sounds kinda off-putting, which I'm afraid would make Olaf more annoying than he was in the first movie. And I said in the other video that, Olaf was tolerable in the first movie. Like, I didn't think he was that annoying, but I could see how he could be annoying for others, but personally I didn't mind. But I fear that in the second movie he's gonna get a little bit more annoying, and I don't know if that's technically Josh Gad's fault or if that's the script's fault. We don't know because the movie hasn't come out yet. But as far as the rest of the characters go, like the side characters, they sound, in my opinion, very disinterested in this movie and what's happening. All the male side characters in this movie sound the exact same. And I know they're played by different voice actors. I looked them up. Like, I looked the whole thing up. I looked up the cast list. But they all have the same tone of voice. And I don't know if the casting chose that on purpose or if it was just a coincidental accident. But they all sound the same, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is probably going to be very bad. It's probably telling characters apart if these characters are going to be more important, because if something really important is going to happen, you're going to get the same monotone of dialogue every single time. And oh my god, that's going to rub my brain in places that it shouldn't. And I want to jump into this last bit before I get into things that I do like about the movie. I just want to talk about something very interesting. I don't know if anyone else talked about this yet, but I found some things in the trailer that reminded me of past movies Disney and Pixar have done in the past. Like, when the trailer starts and they, take a camera shot into, like, the forest that, Anna, Elsa, and Kristoff are gonna go to, it gave me Pixar's Brave vibes. Like, it kind of reminded me of Brave's Scotland setting. Like, they don't have, like, vast mountains in it, but just the forest and its mystical properties are enough for me to say, oh yeah, this is Brave. Like, I've seen Brave a million times. Like, I know what this setting looks like the back of my hand. And then we get to, like, the supernatural, fantastical elements of it. And I'm not talking about the Elsa's powers part, because Elsa's powers were originally from the first movie, so I wouldn't complain much about that. But I'm talking about the leaves moving around, how the water can, like, shape shift and stuff like that. That gave me huge Moana vibes. I was like, I've seen this from Moana, and Moana did that animation so many times better. Like, Moana was a lot more magical than what types of, like, supernatural stuff that they were doing in this Frozen movie. And also, other than, like, outside of Elsa's powers, that animation kind of felt way out of place. Like, I did not understand why they decided to put that in there, but if what I read in the summary is true about the origin story of Elsa's powers, where I will get to in the next portion, I just don't know. And then we get to the one thing that I keep seeing on Tumblr after following so many, like, Disney vlogs. This little lizard thing. That is basically Pascal with a smaller head, skinnier body, and a different color. I lost my train of thought for a second. I'm sorry, I completely forgot what I was going to say. But otherwise, if they wanted to make lizard things, which, first of all, if you're making this a Norwegian, like, European type of setting, having a lizard creature would be almost near impossible because it would be way too cold for them to survive. But then I'm like, oh yeah, it's like a snow lizard thing, so of course it's going to survive. It eats off of Elsa's snow. So I'm like, okay, but instead of making it like a wolf or any other like mammal type creature, they decided to take Pascal from Tangled and basically make him a snow lizard for Elsa's pet, I guess. And that was the point that I realized I think Disney stole some of their own ideas from past movies because in order for a sequel to Frozen to work, they need to throw as many garbage elements. Well, not garbage elements, because first of all, I really love Pascal from Tangled. He is an adorable sidekick, and it works for Tangled because he matched the warm setting of the movie. And I also really liked the supernatural, like, nature type elements from Moana, because again, it's Polynesian mythology. Of course it would fit into that type of setting. And then for the setting of Brave, of course, it takes place in historical Scotland type society, so, like, if you were to, like, add palm trees to Brave, it would make no sense. So basically, Disney is recycling popular elements from their previous good movies just so they can make a sequel to basically what was a cash cow, but years later became almost forgotten in the Disney community. To which I'm like, for Disney, that makes sense, because on the path they're taking, they've been recycling a lot of things and making their good things a lot worse. I'm looking at you, you stupid live-action reboots. But now that I'm done, like, bitching about this, let's talk about why the trailer would actually be appealing to some, if not most, audiences. For one thing, this is a continuation for Elsa's character arc. We're finally getting to know her origins behind why, out of everyone in her entire family, is the one who has snow powers. Like, we're finally going to see her, like, come out of that isolated shell that she was put in from the first movie. She's going to discover herself, which, for a sequel, I think if you're not gonna go, like, there's an entirely new threat that Elsa has to face to protect her kingdom route, but who am I kidding, they're also doing that, then an origin story would make a lot of sense. Especially, like I said, this is her character development that we're finally going to get, that we should have gotten from the first movie, but we didn't because Disney decided to take the safe route. But at the same time, though, I kind of feel like, as I said earlier, this could have been done in the first movie. Not a full origin story, but, like, Elsa could find herself a little bit in the first movie, then do a somewhat origin story, like in a short or something like that. But then again, I am not Disney, so who am I to disagree? And then the second bit is they definitely have a lot more fantastical animation, as I mentioned earlier. Like, don't get me wrong, I feel like the animation for the supernatural elements in this movie still feels like it was stolen from Moana just to be put into here, and it kind of feels out of place just a little bit. But at the same time, though, I do appreciate that there's more of it, because in the first movie, yeah, you do have how beautiful the fjords look, and then you have Elsa's powers being put into place, which is downright, beautiful, as I should say. But in this movie, I appreciate that there was more of it. Definitely, because if we're gonna do it like an Elsa origin story, why the heck not? And there are moments that this animation is done beautifully. I just feel like, as I said before, there could have been more originality put into it. A lot of more oomph. I mean, come on, this is the sequel to what everyone's favorite movie was in 2013. Like, you think you could put a little more effort into it? My closing thoughts, about the whole thing is that if I were the, average Disney fan I was when I was younger, who basically did not have, like, the English major analytical side that I gained when I was in my first year of college, I think I would be totally excited to go see this movie because, first of all, if I loved the first movie so much and we're finally getting a sequel to it, who wouldn't be excited for it? But at the same time, though, I also remember what happened with the first movie, that there was supposed to be one scene when the blizzard strikes on the mountain and Anna goes, "That's no blizzard, that's my sister." I expected that part to be in the movie, but they cut that out entirely, which, honestly, I think that part would have been, like, more development between Anna and her sister, because that's when, Anna realizes, yeah, her sister does have these types of powers, and this is something that nature really couldn't do. And it would have added more development for Elsa, that maybe Elsa becomes like a sort of like semi-villain where she is like putting the whole entire kingdom of Arendelle into snow on purpose just to get revenge for how they treated her when she was a child. Again, that would make more sense plot-wise. I feel like if Frozen 2 is really going to go the serious route that it's going to go, like the part where Anna and Elsa have this discussion.
You can't just follow me into fire. Then don't run into fire.
Then maybe the second movie would work. Maybe the second movie would finally bring up the bad reputation that the first movie had. But at the same time, though, Disney might cut out some of the scenes from the trailer, from the second movie trailer, because maybe it doesn't match the tone of the rest of the movie, like they tried to do for the first one. But then again, like I said, the first one is like trash. I'm just afraid that Frozen 2 might end up being as fruitless as the first movie. Maybe for like tone and connection wise it would make more sense to do this. But at the same time, though, I felt like Disney could have done a better job or better justice to all these characters if they had a more serious tone from the first movie and it faded into the second one, so that the stories and backstories and the timeline would connect much better. If there's one thing I am happy about, it's that they didn't pull off the whole, maybe they're gonna throw, like, Tarzan in there as, like, the Disney official theory says it is. I mean, I seriously, like, oh, like, Anna and Elsa's parents gave birth to a son, like, while traveling to some kingdom and they end up in Africa. That's ridiculous. Like, whoever Disney officials said that, I hope they were fired. But at the end of the day, am I gonna go see this movie, or am I not? As I did with the Cats video I did about a month or so ago. Maybe? I'm still on the fence about it. Maybe I'll watch it just for, like, film analytical purposes, just for another video I can add into this channel. But as of right now, like, am I really going to waste my money watching a sequel that probably is going to be less interesting than the first movie was? Like, in a perfect world, like, someone would probably, like, pirate it onto YouTube anyway, because they did that for the first movie. Like, when the first movie came out, like, pirated versions of them filming it in movie theaters were everywhere. I really don't know yet. For Cats, I'm definitely sure that I'm gonna go watch it, if not by myself, because I'm just curious of what the movie version's gonna do to either destroy or bring up Cats' the musical's career. But I think the Disney, like, company is pretty much set in stone at this point. They're more focused on their live-action Marvel boring stuff, other than Black Panther, more than their animations at this point. Like, I think we're going into a time period where whoever's in charge is thinking that, oh, animated movies don't do well anymore, so we're all gonna do, like, boring live-action movies instead. To which I'm like, have you seen Japan recently? I think they're doing extremely well in the animation department. And so far, I think DreamWorks has you beat, which is not good. So, I know this video might seem a little bit abrupt when it comes to the whole, like, discussion of this movie, because I really don't have any strong opinions for it as I did the first movie, since I watched the first movie, like, a dozen times. If you guys have your own opinions about this, you can put them in the comments below. I would really like to hear what your thoughts on it are. And like I said, if you guys haven't seen my first Frozen video, like, it's in the description box below. Like, please click on the link and go watch it. I promise you, it's pretty entertaining. So, I'm Cait Cher, and it's been real. Ciao!